Hey everybody, this is Chris Arnold, Avon Independent Sales Leader, and just wanted to share with you today some of my personal tips and tricks for getting the most out of Vibe. And this is sort of just, kind of the basics, not going to go into anything really too deep, but just the basic things that I think will help you to really kind of get control of the information that you need to have to best work with your team. So when you first log into Vibe, you'll get kind of your Vibe dashboard, and what each of these boxes are customizable. You can decide what you want to see. You can have your most important things right there at the top so you see them right away, and other things that you might want to see at a glance but that aren't as important, you can have them farther down the screen. So the first thing I want to show you is kind of how to edit those boxes and some of my personal favorites and what I like about them. So, oops. So first up, you come over here to the side. On the right-hand side, you'll see the edit panels. And this is, of course, the desktop view. It'll be a little bit different if you're viewing it on your phone or your tablet or any other mobile device. So you go to the edit panels, and when you click on that, it will open up this box where you can search for whatever panel you want, or there's an alphabetical list of different panels that you can add in. So all you do is you click on one of the panels that you want to add, and then you drag and drop it into your dashboard where you want it to show up. So there's a lot of different panels to choose from, but the ones that I find the most important, first off, is the business dashboard. And this is where you have all of your information about kind of at a glance. And you'll see here where it says show less on the, you'll see on the regular dashboard, it shows more here. So this is what you get if you click show more. You get this expanded. So you have your quick view at the top that shows your total team sales, number of members on your team, and your personal sales, because of course these are the three things that determine, that sort of determine not the actual number of members on your team, but the number of members that are placing orders. These are the things that determine whether you have met the requirements for your particular title each campaign. So when you click on the show more, you get this team sales and orders, team size, and your personal sales. You can change to the previous campaign, the current campaign, or the next campaign. So if we're already working on the next campaign, you can see how that's stacking up, and then you can see kind of the final totals for the previous campaign. Each of these blue links, team sales, leadership sales, number of orders, total additions to the team, removals, all of those links, if the header is in blue over here, that means that's actually a link to a report that you can pull up. So you can click on team sales, and that will show you the sales that comprise, that went into making these numbers here. So each one of those will pull up different reports. Sometimes you'll actually see where new appointments and reinstatements are lit up in blue, but total additions to team isn't. I think that depends on whether or not you're looking at a current campaign or a future campaign. Either way, it opens up the same report. So if you click on new appointments, it'll also show you your reinstatements. So it breaks down your team sales by your first, second, and third generation, because of course, right now for the rest of 2017, those are the three generations that we earn on. And then your total sales, and that's not this total here where it's listed under team sales. This does not include your personal sales. So that's why it's different from the total team sales up here in the business dashboard, because that's the team sales plus your personal sales. Leadership sales, at this point, this is the actual amount of sales that we are paid on. So the team sales determines your sales or your leader title level, but leadership sales is the actual figure that our earnings percentage is applied to. Don't worry too much about that, because I do know that's going to be changing in the new year, so you wouldn't worry too much about it if you're not really familiar with leadership sales at this point. Number of orders shows you how many orders you have in each of your three generations, and then your total for that. That, of course, is important because if you're in the ambassador level, you need certain number of first generation orders in order to qualify for your title. And also, once you reach the leader level, you need at least 10 orders in your first generation. Number of no orders is representatives who didn't place an order in that campaign. Order activity is the percentage of active people in each generation that have placed an order. And your average order size is just that. It tells you the average order per representative. So that information can be helpful in setting goals or kind of keeping track of how you're performing versus prior campaigns or prior years when you may have a different number of total representatives that you're working with. You also have your team size and adjustments to that down here. It'll show new appointments, reinstatements, and removals. The miscellaneous adjustments here, those are basically the miscellaneous adjustment is it's a new appointment who is still categorized as pending with order. So they're the campaign for their representative processing schedule for their RPS hasn't closed out yet. So they still haven't actually been added to your ending team size at this point. So they are showing up as a new appointment, a pending representative with an order. So they would be a new appointment, but until their RPS closes out, they're not officially added to your team. So that's what those miscellaneous adjustments are. And then sometimes there's a couple of other things that might be there, something that would be considered a miscellaneous adjustment to your team size. And then, of course, you have your personal sales, your award sales, your year-to-date sales, and your online store sales for that campaign. The next panel that I really like is the progress report, and this is where you get, just at a glance how you're performing versus the requirements for your title. So you can see just in the example here. At this point in the campaign, I'm 89% of the way to my title of Gold Leader, and I can see where the shortfall is. So I can see that my total team sales is not quite at the 20,000 yet. I'm still only at 11,809. But I can see, my personal sales, I've met that requirement, and my first generation orders, I've met that requirement. And then the requirement for the number of leaders that I need to have on my team. It'll also indicate if any of those leaders have their title at risk. There's a handy little key here so that each of those leaders here, I can see if somebody is at risk. A really nice feature about this too is you can come up here and search downline, and you can put in the name of any leader in your downline at any level, and it will pull up their stats as well. So you can quickly pull up this sort of snapshot progress report for any leaders on your team too, so you can keep track of them and see how they're performing. This is especially useful if you've got somebody that's close to advancing to a new title, or somebody that is title at risk, meaning they've gone one or more campaigns without meeting the requirements for their title. You can keep an eye on if they have re-achieved that title or not. So that's a very helpful panel there. And the next panel, these are action alerts. And this is just quick links to reports. Remember, anytime you see something blue, that's going to give you a report based on whatever that link says. So these are just quick action items, things that the type of thing that you may want to look at every day and see. So you want to see, if you've got new pending appointments, you want to check those out, see who those are. If they're in your first generation, obviously you want to reach out to them. If they're in your second generation, then you want to offer support to the leader that's helping them, especially if they're a new leader. You can look and see what representatives have orders on hold, people that are close to being removed for inactivity, pending appointments that are about to be discontinued because they haven't placed an order yet. So just the action items, they kind of change every day based on what's going on your team. Another great one that I like is representatives in your team that have received awards since last campaign. That's a great one to look up. That'll pull up a report that shows, who has achieved anything in any incentives going on. that, you know, any type of awards like that, incentives or programs that are going on that they're earning awards for. So that's a great action item. You can click on that report and instantly congratulate people on their achievements. So like I said, these change every day, but having the action alerts there, it's just like a quick, like I said, a quick link to a report giving you the information you need about these things that you may want to take action on. Closed campaign comparison. This only updates once every 2 weeks. It updates on, it's every other Tuesday. It's what is affectionately called Closeout Tuesday. And that is the day that the campaign closes out nationally, closes out for all 10 RPS schedules. And it's just a comparison of, it defaults to a comparison of the campaign that just closed and the same campaign in the previous year. You see there's the little drop-down boxes here where you can actually choose any campaign from the most recently closed campaign to 27 campaigns back, so that you can go and compare and see, you know, how your stats are lining up versus any previous campaigns. This is actually 2 different panels. There's the search contacts panel. This panel is just, it's so super quick and easy. If I need to look up somebody that maybe I just talked to a representative, or I need to contact a representative, I can plug their name into search. It'll come up. I can pull up their contact card with all of their notes and scheduled tasks that I have for them, all of their details, and a link to their personal profile so you can see the detail on them. So anytime you just need to quickly look up a particular representative, you don't need to run a report, you don't need to go into contacts, you can just go right here. I keep this panel on my dashboard. I also have just quick links to the contacts, the calendar function, and the task function. I actually use the contacts function the most because when you go into the contacts function, there's actually a list of tasks there. So that, you know, the next upcoming tasks. So it's kind of a good quick access for me that I can go in and view the tasks that I have scheduled for that day. The search by contacts is also a great feature. If somehow you get a phone call from a team member who's maybe not in the contacts on your phone, or you get an email and it's not matching up to their contact, you can punch in a phone number or an email and find representatives by that information as well, not just their name. Saved reports. This is when you go into the reports function and you have a report that you use frequently, you can actually save that report and you can add a panel to your dashboard with your saved reports in it. So you have quick and easy access to those. You can also access your saved reports when you go into the reports menu that I'll show you shortly. There is also a link there to saved reports. I just like having it on that home screen because if it's a report that I access often, this is one less click that it takes to get to it. And so what the saved reports are is when you go into a report, if you go into the filter options and kind of create a custom report, you want to, if it's something you're going to use frequently, you want to save that so that you don't have to go in and do that every time you want to see that report. All right. The sales leadership buzz. I recommend having this one on there. It's basically like on our regular youravon.com dashboard. There is the beauty buzz, and it has the links to all of the different articles that have been in the beauty buzz recently. And the sales leadership buzz is the same sort of little news items, but geared specifically toward leadership representatives and information they would need to know. So it'll be a little bit different. Some of the things will be the same as what's in the beauty buzz. Other things will be a little bit different because they're specific to leadership representatives. So I just like to have that there. It doesn't necessarily update every day. You can see the most recent ones were September 11th and September 5th. But it's just something that once a day when I get into Vibe, I'll scroll down and just take a quick glance at and see if there's any new information there. This one is the panel, and it's the tracking panel for an incentive. This one happens to be Cruise Like a Boss, which we just started, any tracking for Campaign 20 yesterday, so nothing has really shown up yet on this. And usually these trackers are a couple days behind. So there's usually a static report for each incentive where you can get a more in-depth view of the information pertaining to that incentive and how you are tracking toward that incentive and how your team members are tracking toward that incentive. The panel that you can put on your dashboard is just a quick view. It's a very visual, just a quick glance. How are you doing? And just like the progress report for leadership titles, you can also search downline leaders here to see how they're, to pull up their progress report for the incentive too. And I'll show you shortly where to find the more detailed report, because the more detailed report updates on a daily basis. These types of trackers, the visual trackers, sometimes can be a few days behind. So for example, at the time that I took this screenshot, I had actually placed my Campaign 20 order, and I have earned points based on my personal award sales for my Campaign 20 order, but they're not showing up yet on the tracker because it's usually 2 to 3 days behind the actual activity that triggers points. All right. So now I know, well, let's see, this up at the top, you've got a menu. This is where you can access other features of Vibe. So the first option is business. And this is where you can pull up the relationship manager. So that's the contacts, the calendar, and the tasks. There is a resource library. The great thing about this resource library is if you are going through Vibe and sending an email to a team member, you can attach files from this resource library to those emails very easily. And it's also a great place for you to find resources, either for your own personal information or resources that you can share with your team. You have the calendar and the tasks that go along, like I said, with the contact manager or the relationship manager. And this is also where you go to sign up for the sales and leadership development program. So you would click on that link to access the upcoming dates for that program and sign up for a session of that program. And you have an FAQ section also for Vibe. Next up, we have the communications menu. This one I don't really use very much. The only time I would really use this is if I want to go in and see the history of messages or e-cards that I have sent. Typically when I am going to send a message or send an e-card, I'm going to be doing that either from a report or from the personal contact card of the representative that I'm going to be sending things to. So I don't usually access it through this particular link. The reports link, you can take a good advantage of. These are all of the different reports that you can pull up that you can customize to show the information that you want it to show. So these are much more flexible reports in terms of the information you can get from them. Now, I do know some representatives that they just default to the tree view. They pull up the tree view, which is the very nice visual, has a box for each person and shows each team under their leader. So it's very useful for kind of that visual representation of your team. As far as using the tree view as your primary way of pulling up information about your team, I actually recommend the representative search over that, because you can pull that up and it'll still show everybody in your team, and you can decide how you want it to sort. And you can also decide what information you see, so you can see more information at a glance. The disadvantage to the tree view is that to see any information beyond a name and a phone number on any given rep, you have to then, it's an additional click and you have to open up their profile. So you're a little bit more limited and it's more time consuming to get information. You can use the representative search and use the filters to decide exactly what information you want it to give you. You can use the sort fields to decide how you want it to organize that information, and you can see kind of the makeup of your team at a glance. The orders report is also, the orders report or the sales reports are also very good for that, because those you can see at a glance who on your team has orders. And so the sales report will show everybody. The orders report will only show people that have orders. But those reports are also very helpful for an at-a-glance look at how your your team is doing for the campaign in terms of sales and who has placed orders. So I definitely recommend playing around a bit in the other reports and not just relying on the tree view, because the tree view is really kind of time consuming. And honestly, if you're looking up just a specific representative, I like to use that contact search and pull that up, because then that gives you, where you can put in notes and you can schedule tasks for representatives in that feature versus just accessing their personal profile from the link in the tree view. We also have a set of reports that is called our program or static reports. These are reports that Avon generates for us, and they decide the information that will be displayed on the report. So you'll have reports available for all of the different incentives, so the tracking for those. And sometimes you'll have the same report in both PDF and Microsoft Excel format. So XLS is Excel format. Those are nice because you can generate those reports, and then you can manipulate those reports in Excel to maybe display the way that you want them to display. A perfect example of that is either the Kickstart program or the additional leadership bonuses, or even incentives like Cruise like a Boss, where part of the report is that it has a listing of all of your pending appointments, and it's usually an alphabetical listing of all of your pending representatives. And I prefer to open it up in Excel so that I can sort the list by their expected campaign of first order. So, having some of those reports available in Excel is very helpful, because then you can sort it in a way that is easier for you to understand or to find the information that you want. So you have incentive tracking, you have leadership tracking. You can pull up, daily contracts, so you can see where appointments are happening in your team. You've got your business review for sales leaders. This is a great report that you can see not only for yourself, but all of the leaders in your first 3 generations. You can see kind of where they're, for the last campaign, you can see where they fell short of title, where there's potential for advancement, where somebody is close to the next title, and just see at a glance what they need to get to that next title. And so that's a great report. You have reports about flexible ordering in your Alma leads, and there's some other reports down below that. So this list is always changing based on whatever the current incentives are. They're adding new reports, like the daily contracts report is a fairly new report. So they're adding things based on information that we say we would like to have. And then, like I said, the incentive trackers are always updating as we have new incentives. Down here at the bottom, you'll notice the little Vibe tutorial. And the great thing about this, you can click on this to expand it, and you have a preset list of kind of questions or how-tos, and you also have a place where you can search. And the cool thing about this is this Vibe tutorial, when you tell it, I want to know how to find this, I want to know how to run an orders report, it will actually take you through the steps of running an orders report. It's pretty awesome. So, get in there and play around with that, or if there's anything that you're wanting to know how to do, hop into that Vibe tutorial and ask it. And it can help you out in finding, how to do different things or how to find certain information on Vibe. So we talked about, using the reports versus using the tree view to see information. So this is just an example of the representative search. This is kind of the default way that it comes up. It's sorted by generation and then by last name. And of course, I have all of everybody's personal information blacked out there. So those blue boxes would not normally be there. That would be people's names and phone numbers and email addresses. Each of these columns here, you can click on it to sort by that column. So if you wanted to sort by current President's Club title, current leadership title, you'll see at the bottom there's a bar here. You can scroll to the right. There's more columns there. But the great thing about this report is you can come up here to advanced filter options. And, oops, I think I have these backwards. You click advanced filter options and you get all of these different things that you can sort, that you can filter the information, so you can change what generations you're seeing. So maybe you want to focus on your second generation representatives, or you want to see what's going on farther down in your fourth, fifth, or sixth generation. You can, recently I used the representative search and set the state so that I could find representatives that were near locations that were having a Drive Like a Boss workshop, because I wanted to make sure they knew about that workshop and talk about whether or not that's something that they would want to attend, and encourage them to go and get that that training. You can also do a search. You can enter a zip code and have it give you the distance in miles. So that also works well if you're having a meeting in a certain area. Maybe you're going to be traveling and you want to know what representatives on your team are in the area where you're going to be going. You can use that feature. You can search by account status, online status, President's Club. If they're trendsetters, you can search by leadership title. So all sorts of things. You can also come up here to view report as account number. Obviously, the default is going to be your account number, but you can come over here so if you're working with a leader on your team, you can come over here, find representative, and it'll put their account number in, and you can run the report for their team rather than for your own team. And then this is the bottom half of that, where you can, filter by all these other different, you can filter by the LOA, or length of association. So you can say you want to work with just new representatives. You can put in and have it tell you just representatives that are in their Kickstart period. You can tell it to give you LOAs 1 through 7. You can also look at people appointed over a certain date. And, so all of these different things that you can filter by. You can also select what you would like the report to show. So all of these boxes in the output, the dark pink boxes, those are the fields that are actually going to show in the report. All of the white boxes are the available fields that I can add to the report. Now, each of those different types of reports, if you're doing it, this is all specifically for the representative search. But you've got, the orders report, the direct deliveries report, all of those different things. So each of those different reports you can pull up will have different constraints and different output that you can use. So you can play around with those and find the report that gives you what you want to look up. And then again, if it's something that you use regularly, you just come down here and click on Save Report. And now you've got a saved report with all of the constraints and the output, and sorted the way that you want it to be sorted. Just by clicking on that link. The only thing you might have to do is maybe open up the constraints, and like if you're looking at a sales report, you may open up the constraints to change what campaign it's showing, because the saved report will usually save the campaigns that you were looking at. And then once you go through all of those, that selection process, then this is an example of I chose in the representative search to add in who the first generation and second generation representatives were for those representatives in my second and third generation. So you can alter that information and really customize what you're looking for. So especially for those of you that really rely on the tree view, I encourage you to get into the reports, play around with those, and find the ones that give you what you want. Representative search basically is it's going to default to every representative in your first 3 generations, so that you can see them. Then you can go into the advanced filter and add in who the upline leaders are, so that you can see those teams grouped together. So you can see that, like, this is all one person's team, and then this is another person's team here. So you can see their teams all together, and you can also do the same thing with the orders report or the sales report. Those would be the two that I use the most often, other than the representative search, just because those ones will put the sales total amounts. You'll have a column with their award sales, their leadership sales, and things like that. There's also there's a report called President's Club, and that report, sit back to that there. So this report here, President's Club, will give you year-to-date sales numbers on all of your team members, and will also give you information about their increase over prior year for the same campaigns. So definitely get into Vibe, play around a little bit. You know, the best way really to really find the information that you want and find it you know, conveniently is just get in there and play around and figure out what is available to you. There's plenty of things in there that you can run with the reports and things. You know, just take some time, you know, maybe once a day, go into Vibe and just open up a new report. Play around with the constraints, play around with the output options, and see what information you can find from that report. And if you find something that you're going to find useful, save that report, save it the way that you've constructed it, so that you can get into it. And definitely get into that edit panels and play with the different panels and find the ones that you're going to find the most useful and get those added in so that you have that information at a glance. This really is a great tool, and I think you'll find it. I know a lot of people are kind of intimidated by it because there is so much information available in it. But I encourage you not to be intimidated, to just get in, you know, dive in and start looking around. And I'm sure you will find tons of things that you will find very useful as you're working with your team on a daily basis. So hope you guys enjoyed this, got something good out of it, and I will talk to you all again soon.